even I have to look at that and say, well, wait a second now. Penn State, was their road in the bracket favorable? Sure. They'll get to show it against Notre Dame. Ohio State looked like mediocre against Michigan. Now they're just beating the hell out of people. It's almost time for college football pundits, fans, and whoever to maybe the Big Ten is on to something because they've done it the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the SEC objectively, there isn't that just standalone perfect team. There's a lot of good teams, but
Yes.
but Matt, those good teams have had flunker days. So I mean, when you get and that was really hard part. I mean, Ole Miss is the only one that even showed a pulse in the postseason, but they were playing an undermanned Duke, so I don't think you can read a whole lot into that. But I just think it's inherent with the SEC. And Matt, I know my position. I know what I've done. But you have to look at yourself in the mirror sometimes and say, you know what, this may not be a very good year. And I'll get pushback saying, well, you can't say that until Texas is out of it. Well, you can say that. Alabama was a huge disappointment. LSU was way off the charts. Georgia was below average for them. I mean, that's how good Georgia has been, is
Yeah.
that they seemed average and they made it to the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. But every single SEC team has flaws. And the idea that Ole Miss could lose to Kentucky, Alabama could lose three double digit favored games. It's hard to comprehend, and we have never seen it before. But you now know why a year ago next week Nick Saban bailed out,
Yeah.
because he not only had the best team, he had the best second team, and I mean it's been said many times, but it's worth repeating that. I mean, he had future number one draft choices on the reserve team. That's how. I mean, he was deep. He was so deep it was ridiculous. Nobody's that deep anymore.
We've got the semifinals set: Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State. Who do you ultimately believe is going to be playing for the national championship January 20th in Atlanta?
Today, I would take Notre Dame and Ohio State because they've been the most impressive. And I mean, I just can't get excited about Penn State beating SMU at home and Boise State. And I was guilty too, Matt, of looking past Arizona State. I knew they were a hot team, but when Arizona State and Boise State are not the same teams.
No.
I mean, to me, the idea that Penn State could make it to the semifinals of this thing, really not having played anyone yet, is the main reason why I like Notre Dame. I'm still not a believer in Indiana, but they look very good in that victory, and they looked even better against what I believe is a quality team in Georgia.
Yeah. And,
And
and
on the
again,
other side,
yeah.
uh, yeah, to be repetitive here from the front of the conversation, uh, Ohio State doesn't have to play as well. They just have to play consistently and use the talent that they have. And I'm not really sure why it's taken that long for Ryan Day to figure out what he has, but good for him that he did.
Yeah, figured it out at the right time, and now Ohio State appears to be a gauntlet. I'm with you. I think at the end of the day, Ohio State, Notre Dame, just based on how they're playing, seems the most likely. The one thing I'd say for Texas, they get a home game in Arlington at the
Yeah.
Cotton Bowl. I mean, that's a good situation and scene for them. But I would say the four teams we have, not too surprised based on everything that was going into the storylines. But ultimately, I would right now. I think the college football playoff, the 12th team did what it was supposed to do. And I mean, look, Penn State ended the season ranked the top five, and everyone's like, well, what the hell are you talking about? Well, here they are. I mean,
Yeah.
they're here. So I think it did its job.
Stop me if you've heard this 18 million times about the Saturday of the Final Four, but
Yeah,
Thursday and Friday are going to be dramatic.
it's amazing.
And there are four blue bloods. I mean, there's no outliers in this thing.
Right.
Every one of these programs has a long resume, and I mean, we haven't talked as much about Notre Dame and Penn State, but there's reams of tradition and bad blood over the many years between those two.
Yeah. And look, if Arizona State would have somehow gotten in, it'd have been a great story. But if you'd have looked at
Yeah,
the semifinals, you'd have been like, oh, okay, well, But I look at these semifinals. I'm like, yeah, those are four of the best teams in the country. I mean, those teams are, all,
Yeah,
and that's how I'm kind of looking at it.
in Texas, I mean, I realize Texas has not been great lately. Uh,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I realize they've been to the playoffs the last 2 years, but they had that long dry stretch. But Texas traditionally is still one of the big time programs in college football, and Ohio State. I mean, it's just and the fact that I think they're going to play first game of next year
Yeah.
is even more amazing.